Hey, what's up guys, it's your man JB here and welcome to this video and welcome to my channel. Now what we're going to do today is paint this radiator, and I've got this Hammerite Radiator paint. Now I'm doing a little bit of decorating in this room. I've just started painting the skirting, got a bit of undercoat on there. Got some new furniture coming in, so I thought it's about time to get these radiators done. Plus the missus is, she's bugging me about getting these done, so better keep her happy and get them painted. So as you can see, the radiator itself has kind of got a bit of a funny colour. It's not really white anymore, and it really does show up against this wall here. Even though this isn't completely white, this really does look quite a nasty colour, so it's a good job we're getting it painted. Now there is another radiator on the other side of the room which I have started preparing, so I will get that one done after I've done this one. So I've gone for the Hammerite paint because they have got a good reputation, particularly for painting on metal, and it does say that it's hard wearing and resists yellowing. Well, that's certainly what's happened to this. That has started to turn yellow. It was all yellow. And it's also got this heat resistant protection. This is a solvent based paint, so we will need to clean the brush with some white spirit afterwards. Now in terms of preparation, we do need to key this, we do need to rub it down, because at the moment it's got a really shiny surface, and you put any paint on a shiny surface and it's likely to peel off, so we do need to rub this down first. And for that, I'm going to use a bit of 120 paper. What you do need to be careful of is when you're sanding and you've got these kind of sharp edges, not to rub down too much, otherwise you will take it right down to the bare metal, which we don't really want to do. First thing I'll do is just rub down this whole face. I'll take my piece of paper, keeping it quite flat against the radiator. I've given the whole face a quick sand. I might just need to go over that again at the end, but what I need to do now is go down all these kind of slots here. This is going to take a while. Don't rush it. Make sure it has all been keyed. Really important to make sure that the paint sticks. Really good idea to have a light to actually shine on the surface that you've keyed, because then you can really see where there are any areas that still need a little bit of sanding. And what I need to do now is just to go around these edges here and make sure they're slightly scratched and not shiny as well. I'll just go over these top bits here. I've checked it all over, it's lovely and sanded, feeling a little bit rough, which is exactly what we want. So what I'll do is just give it a bit of a brush down. And then just to make sure that there's minimal dust on there, I'm just going to give it a quick wipe with a slightly damp rag. Just dry it off with a bit of paper towel, and then it's going to be a few minutes yet until I start putting some paint on, so that will definitely be nice and dry. The application of this product does suggest 2 coats, so it's very likely that I'm going to do 2 coats, particularly the fact that you've got these areas here where there is no paint on the radiator whatsoever, and I don't want to put too much paint on to try and cover it and then the paint runs, so I'd rather do 2 thinner coats, but we'll see what it's like after that first coat. I would usually pour the paint I'm using into a kettle, but it's quite a small tin and it's only a small area, so I'll leave it in here for now. We'll give it a quick stir, although it seems to be quite well mixed already. As you can see, the product is quite runny, so we need to be careful not to get any drips on the radiator. I'm going to start with the areas that are a little bit harder to reach and out the way. So let's start with these, just start with these side panels here. Being a solvent based paint, it's actually quite sticky, which is great news because it means that there's less chance of it running. Make sure you've got windows and doors open when you use this because it really is strong stuff. There we go, perfect. We'll check any runs before we finish. Next, we'll do this very back edge lip. And then it leaves us just to do the front. Really kind of doing the areas that you're not going to see too much. And you're not likely to mess those good areas up trying to do the areas afterwards that aren't going to be seen. You've got this very thin surface on this side of the radiator here. Quite nice if you just dab that with the brush. Covers that quite well. Otherwise, if you try and actually brush it, you will end up with runs either side. Now I've got all my edges done, all I've got left to do is this face here. So I'm going to start by filling in this section. Awkward bits first, then finish the whole thing off afterwards. Keep going back, make sure there's no drips, get a really nice finish. And the advantage of it being solvent based is that it doesn't dry too quickly. That is the only problem with water-based. Water-based paints are really convenient, but they dry so quickly, which means going over it again a bit later does ruin the finished paintwork. So actually with solvent-based, it really does stink. It takes a lot longer to dry, but it's a much better finish. Okay, I've done all the inside of the radiator now, so what I'll just do is finish off by just going around the top. So what I'll do, I'll brush it along this way in order to get a nice finish along the top. I can do is then just run that down so that's all nice and even and smooth. Definitely worth changing your painting position so you can see the light and you can see exactly where you've been. So just finish that edge there then. So we've done along the top, we've done down the sides, I've blended it all in, and then we'll just finish off with the bottom. So by keeping the light in the right position, you can get a really good idea there that all the paint has gone on equally and you've covered every bit that needs covering. And if we take a step back, and that's how the radiator looks after the first coat. There are maybe just a couple of areas where the radiator colour was so yellow before. You can just see a little bit of that showing through in a couple of places. Might not be able to catch it on the camera. And you can also see just here where there was no paint on the radiator, where some of the paint had chipped off. So I'm definitely going to give it a second coat, but I reckon after that it's going to look pretty awesome. I am going to be painting this tomorrow, but it's only been about 3 hours and this paint is already touch dry despite the fact that it's solvent based paint. I mean, it does say on the tin that after 4 hours it's touch dry, so I mean that's fantastic because there's nothing worse than tacky paint. It's now been at least 16 hours since I painted this and it feels really smooth. If we look closer at it, you can just see that it is very flat. It has dried, the paint has dried very flat indeed, but it definitely needs a second coat because you can still notice a few of the scratches from the sandpaper. I've still got this mark here where there was no paint before, so that needs to be covered over. Now the preparation for the second coat is really minimal, but what I do want to do is use a piece of 180 grit sandpaper and just give it a very light rub over. So this shouldn't take too long at all. Now what I'm not going to do is these bits on the side here or these bits on the top because they're really not seen anyway and they look pretty good just with one coat. So I'm just going to focus on this face of the radiator for the second coat. This 180 grit sandpaper is absolutely perfect for sanding down between coats. It doesn't do too much scratching or keying, but just enough for that second coat to go on whilst keeping it nice and smooth without roughing it up too much. I think all I'm going to do on these bits in here is just one rub down like so. I can see it scratching it. Oh, quick brush down. Created minimal dust on this second coat. Do make sure you wear a dust mask on that first coat though, because yeah, it really does get quite dusty. That is a little bit trickier doing the second coat because you really can't see it. So use that light to shine it on and Makes it a bit easier to see then where you have gone. Once you think you're finished, just give it a once over, have a look with the light, just make sure there's no drip marks. Well, I'm quite happy with that. I think that looks really good. That's really covered up that area where the paint had chipped. So that is now looking even better than before. That's brilliant. I'm really happy how this radiator has come out. Well, there it is, how to paint your radiator using this Hammerite Radiator paint. And this is the satin white. Didn't really want to go for a gloss finish. I think satin is a little bit better these days than a gloss, but hey, personal preference. Any thoughts on this? Leave those in the comments box below, and I'll also leave a link to this in the description box. It's got the JB seal of approval, oh yes. Awesome guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.